Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Ron.
Ron is present. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to another segment of SPTV. Guys, we need to talk about the absolute collapse of Scientology in California. Nowhere in California is this more evident than in Orange County. The Church of Scientology in Orange County used to be one of the biggest, booming, most successful, thriving Scientology organizations, not just in the United States, but in the entire world. In Scientology land, all Scientology orgs compete against each other in an annual game called the L. Ron Hubbard birthday game. L. Ron Hubbard's birthday is on March 13th. So from March 13th to March 12th of every year, orgs compete for who can put up the best stats. The Orange County org used to win the L. Ron Hubbard birthday game year after year after year. Now, because Orange County is also a very wealthy county in California, the Orange County org was responsible for bringing in a lot of very wealthy Scientologists. The Orange County org really was one of the very few true success stories in the world of Scientology. And today, guys, it has all but ceased to exist in terms of staff members and public and money generated for Scientology. Mike Rinder did a blog post about this yesterday. Let's take a look at what he had to say. Orange County Ideal Org. Now, real quick for the viewers, an ideal org is a term in Scientology that refers to an existing Scientology organization that buys and renovates a massive new 50,000 square foot plus facility for the existing org. Once the new facility is purchased, renovated, and the ribbon is yanked for the grand opening, it is called an ideal org. Okay, Mike says, I recently mentioned Orange County Ideal Org in one of the live Q&As. By the way, if you're not already subscribed to Mike Rinder's YouTube channel, definitely subscribe. Fantastic content. I'll put a link to that in the description below. I recently mentioned the Orange County Ideal Org in one of the live Q&As. I erroneously said it was in downtown Anaheim. It is, in fact, in downtown Santa Ana. A viewer reached out to provide some information about the current state of this org and what happened subsequent to the great ribbon yanking that occurred 10 plus years ago. Here is the report. As of 2 years ago, I heard that they were down to about 25 staff total for both day and foundation orgs. Again, real quick for the viewers. In Scientology, many of the Scientology organizations are divided up into two shifts, two separate staffs, and they're actually considered two separate organizations. So the day org operates Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. The foundation org operates nights and weekends. Totally different staffs, different executive directors, different financial plans. When Scientology gives you the count of how many orgs there are, they're actually double counting many of their orgs because of this day and foundation shift, and that they consider them to be separate orgs. Okay, so he says they're down to about 25 staff total for both day and foundation orgs. On the day in 2012, when they opened the new building, there were 120 staff. Probably about 30 of the 120 people hired were either children or non-Scientologists looking for real jobs, so they lasted maybe a week or two. By around 4 to 5 years ago, often the course rooms during the day were not even opened, and if opened, had 1 or 2 public. Of the current staff, almost half are probably over 65 years of age, and most have been staffed for at least 20 years. The location does not work because it is in a predominantly Hispanic area and only a few staff speak any Spanish, and even those are not fluent. Also, no free parking unless you want to walk about 5 blocks. So staff have to pay at least $25 a month for parking. They would have done better remodeling the old Tustin location, and it would have cost a lot less. Also, when someone gets labeled an SP, their name tag for donations to the building gets removed, like Ned McCrink. Mike says nothing new or unusual here, but always good to hear from locals who have firsthand knowledge of their particular organizations. This Ideal Org program is probably the biggest failed program in the history of Scientology. Ideal Orgs have ushered in an era of completely empty orgs. There were inactive orgs in the past, but at this point in the disintegration of Scientology, there are almost no orgs that are not inactive or empty, no matter how big their buildings are. In the words of L. Ron Hubbard, the lack of large buildings is a massive wrong why, which has itself now become the situation. Super interesting. So I did a video recently doing an estimate of how many Scientologists there are in the entire world, and I'll put a link to that video in the description down below as well. In that estimate that I did, which was very charitable, I estimated on average about 35 staff members per org and about 100 public per org. Now, that estimate wasn't meant to mean that 100 public are actually on course or getting auditing every week at the org. It was really more like if L. Ron Hubbard came back and David Miscavige announced that L. Ron Hubbard had returned, there was going to be a live event featuring the new reincarnated L. Ron Hubbard and OT 9 and 10. The announcement was OT 9 and 10 were going to be released, and it was going to be announced at this event that you could probably muster up 100 people for every org, regardless of whether they, have even taken a course or gotten auditing in the last 10 years. So that estimate, like I said, it was a charitable estimate, 100 public, 35 staff. And we have this person here talking about Orange County saying 25 staff total for both orgs combined. And then when he talks about 1 or 2 people being in a course room during daytime hours, or sometimes the course room's not even being open, you can really see that the number of Scientologists in the world, you can really see that 35,000. When I say it's generous, guys, I mean generous. Like, what could the number of active Scientologists in the world be right now? And active Scientologists is a statistic that actually gets reported by every organization every week. I mean, we really could be talking about an active Scientologist population of 10 to 15,000. I mean, 20,000 if we're just still being insanely generous. Now, the reason I wanted to do this video wasn't just to pick on the Orange County org specifically, but it was to use this as a single data point for those Scientologists who are in the bubble and stumble upon my videos and, secretly watch my videos. This information here about the Orange County org, damn well this information holds true for your local Scientology org. It's possible your local org isn't quite as bad off as Orange County, but you would still have to ask yourself, how is it even possible for Orange County to be in this state? Do you guys remember back in the day, 15, 20, 25 years ago, every org in the world would have killed to have the stats that Orange County was putting up. And those were legitimate stats. It wasn't like one of these other orgs that got busted for false reporting. And this was way back before all the massive credit card fraud occurred. I mean, there's always been questionable fundraising and registration tactics in Scientology, but Orange County isn't one of those orgs that was flourishing on the backs of fraudulent registration. These guys were genuinely getting people into Scientology. Their executive director was Ed Dearborn. He was an absolute rock star. I believe he was responsible for booming even more than one Scientology org. So you have to ask yourself, how is it possible that Orange County has gotten into the condition that it has gotten to now? If David Miscavige was telling you the truth, if Scientology management was everything David Miscavige says that it is, if Continental management was even a fraction of what they are actually supposed to be, if the Sea Org was doing the job it's supposed to be doing, how is it possible that one of Scientology's most successful organizations and one that has an ideal org has fallen to the state where it has essentially ceased to exist? And I'm really beating this horse a bit, because I'm hoping that the easiest thing for people still trapped in the bubble to see, and I know it sounds a little silly, is to see the things that are actually right in front of their faces. There's a lot of stuff management lies to you about that you're not able to see with your own eyes. Things like the OT levels, OT 9 and 10, how L. Ron Hubbard died, whether David Miscavige was really the one who was supposed to take over. These things, you can't see the truth of these things with your own eyes. You can see the truth of the state of your local org with your own eyes. Now, compare the state of your local org to the rhetoric and the propaganda that comes out of David Miscavige's mouth at every opportunity. Scientology is the fastest growing religion on earth. Scientology is expanding exponentially. Scientology's grown 62x since the release of Golden Age of Tech 2. You guys can see with your own eyes that these things are false. If Miscavige is lying to you about the stuff that you can see, the stuff that you can see with your own eyes he's lying to you about, then what in the hell do you think is going on regarding the things that you can't see? And when I say that, I really do specifically mean about the OT levels, guys. There is no OT 9 and 10. There are no upper unreleased OT levels. L. Ron Hubbard did not write all these things up before he passed away. You're literally being lied to about it and have been being lied to at every single event, every single year by David Miscavige ever since L. Ron Hubbard died. And whereas I can't physically prove that to you, you can connect the dots and figure out that this is true. Go into your local organization. There are less staff there today than there were 20 years ago. There's less people on course today than there were 20 years ago. You know there's less professional auditors today than there were 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. You can see all of the people that you knew were good, dedicated people in Scientology, all the ones who've been declared suppressive persons, who've been disconnected by their families. You can see that Scientology is more of a force of destruction and evil in society than it is for good. Regardless of Narconon, Criminon, Applied Scholastics, Youth for Human Rights, all the window dressing that Scientology pretends to care about so they can act like they're a force for good in the community. You know Scientologists don't really care about those things either. You guys know that Scientology is supposed to be about Scientology expanding Scientology, moving people up the bridge. And whereas I will freely admit, I no longer care about those things. I don't give a damn if Scientology succeeds. I don't want Scientology to succeed. I believe it is a con and it is a fraud. For you in the bubble, you guys are at least still on the fence or undecided about this. And so that's why I harp on these issues. Really come to terms with and confront the state of your local org, even if your local org already has an ideal org building. And then just ask yourself, how is this possible? Think on it for a bit. Realize that the truth will be uncomfortable, and that is okay. It should be uncomfortable. You're being lied to and deceived by people, someone and people who you trust a lot. That's uncomfortable. Nobody wants to come to terms with that. But the fact is, if you're still in Scientology and you're still giving them your time and your money and you're giving them your children, you're signing your children up for staff or the Sea Organization, you're making decisions you're going to regret much later on in life. Confronting the uncomfortable truth now will save you many more uncomfortable truths later on down the line. Stop wasting your time. Stop wasting your money. Stop wasting your family members. The sooner you wake up and leave this family-destroying human trafficking cult that has family members spying on family members, friends spying on friends, that's no way to live. That is no way to live. Do you know what life is like outside of a cult? It's much more pleasant. All right, everyone, that's all I've got on this. Thank you for watching and listening. Stay tuned. I got a lot more coming today, and I will talk to you guys soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.